Okay, cool.
I introduce myself, I guess?
I was going to ask the question,
yeah, you
but
can ask the question.
So, if you want to just take 2 minutes, who are you? Yep. Okay,
So,
it doesn't have to fill the whole 2 minutes,
Okay.
that's your ceiling.
Okay, so, my name is Stephan Brinckmann. I'm originally from New Jersey. Obviously, we're here at the University of Wyoming. I'm looking directly into the camera.
Yes, you are.
I've got a goofy personality.
There it is.
But so I'm a PhD student here in the mechanical engineering department. I'm someone who's not technically someone who generally appreciates art.
Yeah.
You don't think of an engineer to be someone who might appreciate art.
Yeah.
And I am very technical minded, very rigid, very structured in my life.
Procedural, yeah.
But I think that's the beauty about art sometimes. You can have that. You can find the ways to even integrate. So
it's actually one of the reasons that I wanted to talk to you too, is because there is kind of this weird idea that like STEM fields and the humanities,
they can't coexist.
Yeah, there's no overlap.
Which is total bullshit. So.
Yeah, I don't see how they can be separate in terms of just from
you're totally right. You're totally
a design standpoint.
I think here's a tidbit about what I do here. Is PhD student, obviously I said that already. I research, I've done stuff in the past, but now I'm moving into a 3D printing field where obviously art and engineering blend. And of course I'm not going to be making art with my 3D printing stuff, but people use the same equipment I use to create art. Yeah. So in essence, I think maybe that's not exactly what it's designed for, but the majority of people I interact with to figure out how to get my stuff to work are people playing around as artists, designing things graphically and creating them in this 3D printer.
Yeah, totally.
So they totally overlap. There's no issue.
There's no question to me. Yeah, and
everything's interwoven. I think that's what's beautiful about the world in general.
I think that the kind of the false dichotomy that people have is that STEM humanities don't overlap.
There do exist these people who are totally all about STEM, and then there's people who are, I don't know people who are totally all about art, but
I'm becoming,
anyway, the overlap is there, but it's a Venn diagram, if you will. So there are people who don't understand art, or I'm a materials guy. I don't know if from an art standpoint, I'm technical, right? But realistically, I work with materials. I don't work with math all too often. I don't work with fluid flow or building anything. I work with characterizing materials. If you take that back to art history, even people had to use stuff that's being researched today, like gold nanoparticles, to create red stained glass. It's all everything intertwines.
And even just looking at the structures of the materials you're working with and how they interact with everything else, and how they deform and
shapes. It's great. So there's art in my daily life,
cool. In the more traditional veins of art, though, like we've been talking about, art is pretty much everything can be art.
Yeah, for sure.
But the ones that people generally think of are music, film, visual art, literature. I would argue architecture is probably it's all conscious choices, which are inevitably influenced by design and art and those choices.
Exactly.
Yeah. But in the vein of getting at your interaction with art on a really personal level, what medium or mode or kind of art do you most respond to, I'd say?
So for sure, I'd say it's music.
Yeah.
Honestly, film is another one too. Lots of visual aspects in that. But I think on the auditory side, I like that a lot. I can listen to music whatever I'm doing. It can either not evoke a reaction. Is that the right word?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Invoke is what I wanted to say. Evoke a reaction, right? Or it can, so I can listen to some noise, basically, and, feel nothing about it, but if I really listen to the noise, it blends together as this one piece of music that can, lyrically or even, thematically move me, you know.
Yeah.
So that's what I think I love about it so much. Is it's so versatile and like.
Yeah.
You know, it's really underappreciated sometimes. Everybody listens to music, but not everybody listens to music.
Yeah, no, that's exactly what. That's actually one of the motivations for why I wanted to do this project, is because people experience, like music, for example.
Yeah.
People listen to music all the time, but it's not a conscious consumption. Almost, it's not a conscious experience.
For sure.
It's just kind of put on in the background, and you're interacting with it. You're responding to it, but you're not really critical. You're not really examining
what you're listening to.
Exactly, yeah.
So I think one topic that comes to mind is Kesha, you know, or an artist.
Okay,
right?
yeah.
Kesha is, in my mind, she or her producers or whatever, they, before, I don't know what scandal she was going through recently, but it doesn't matter. Everything about her music is perfect to the consumer. Mm-hmm. It's much like a business. Like, it's everything. I don't know timing or anything. I'm not a mathematician, engineer. Like, I don't know this stuff too well. But to me, like, it's so predictable. Like, it hits that note, and it's like, okay, it's a 1, 2, 3, like 4 drop. You know, like
exactly.
And then the lyrics are all, you know, least lowest common denominator, like party, party. Yeah. Like, let's have fun. So like, you can listen to that, and I once again, I've probably listened to that a little bit more, and like totally brought down like deconstructed almost.
Yeah.
How that works, you know, like
trying to find that like formula that they're using.
Why that it's like this?
Yeah.
Then you know, people who listen to that garbage, in my opinion, it's great. It's music. It's fun. Everything's great. But I call it. It's in my head. It's not something I want to listen to all the time.
It's
garbage was a strong word.
Well, it's subjective, so you can call it garbage.
Yeah. Okay.
There isn't a right or wrong.
For sure. I just don't want to offend anybody. I'm gonna break this fourth wall.
Just keep doing that. Yep.
Anyway, so then people like to listen to that music mindlessly, right?
Yeah.
To, you know, like, how can you listen to metal? Like, it's so disgusting, it's so loud, you know. But then you deconstruct metal, and like, you have 5 or 6 guys, girls, you know, whoever, jamming on an instrument, and like, you can break apart each part of the track and like listen to it several times and get something different out of it. It's like the chaos of it all blends to a beautiful art piece, you know?
Yeah, no, that's one of the things I love about metal too, is it is a like conscious composition. All of this is written beforehand, but you cannot tell that when you're listening to it.
But unless you're really listening, you know?
Yes, that's true.
So, you know, a little anecdote I have about this. This is a story I like to tell. I've told it to you before. So, I'm in high school, I think, where me and my buddy are driving some girls to the movie theater, and like, we're listening to Between the Buried and Me. We're jamming out, like that's our stuff. I'm driving, like I pick the music. You know, that's how that works. But they're like, oh, turn this garbage off. Like, this is what is this talking about Satan and stuff? And I'll get to that in a second. We turn on the radio, and I try to appease this girl Greta in the back, and it's like shots. So it wasn't the song, but it embodied everything.
I get it. Yeah, it's that song.
So I'm like, okay, whatever, this is terrible. I switch back, and she's like, you know, at least that had, something about, I'm trying to phrase this correctly, I forget how exactly it went, it's been years, but she's like, you know, this has a garbage message, and like, that doesn't have a message. I'm like, no, but the song, I listened to the lyrics of the song where, you know, it all makes sense. Yeah. We're capable of beauty, which is like, I'm not sure what the author of the lyrics were going on. I think that's not the correct exact lyric phrase there, but I think it goes from a very heavy part to a very slow, like, calmly relaxing. And like, it's like, you know, we're capable of beauty, but we want to cause this chaos.
Is how we express ourselves.
Exactly. Yeah. And like, I just thought it was so ironic in the way that she's like, you know, there's no values to this right now. There's no morals. Like, but it is. Like, this has much more morals to do with than your top 40s, like, shots song.
Well, I mean, it's kind of this balance that a lot of artists have to strike between business and art.
Oh, absolutely. And I understand it.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's nothing to take it away. Like, you know, this whole starving artist persona, or what that, you know, most artists have to go through nowadays, right? Yeah. People break through, but then the real artists say that's garbage. Mm-hmm. You know, I mean, maybe I'm not. Well, modern art is lost on me a little bit. I don't look into that, but modern art from a
like visual art,
art or auditory, music or movies. Like we can look at Michael Bay. People love Michael Bay's movies. But we talk about a movie like Arrival, and it's like, well, there were no guns, there were no explosions.
There was one explosion.
But it worked out, you know. So
and it was not the climax of the movie.
Exactly.
Not even close. Yeah.
So, it's just mass appeal. I think is lost on a lot of people. And maybe the reflection of our society as a whole. But
well, I think that's actually one of the reasons. I don't know if this is necessarily true for you, but one of the reasons I love metal so much is that there is no big metal bands. They're all just doing this to make the music.
Yes. Well,
except for Metallica.
Yeah. Maybe a couple others. I don't know. I've never listened to, but I have low opinions of like Five Finger Death Punch or.
Well, then we have to define metal. But yeah, that's you're true.
People assume I listen to that when I'm wearing like a Job for a Cowboy T-shirt.
Yeah.
It's all that deathcore sprawled out letters. Like, how could you listen to such Satan music?
Yeah, no, but it's that at the independent level when there's no studio, no record label overseeing.
I think that's a critical flaw in music today. And once again, I don't know anything about the recording industry. This is just like a thing I've gathered from watching bands fall apart.
Yeah.
Like when, here's an example. That's probably a terrible one, so I'm not going to go to it. But a lot of bands I've listened to recently have been moving towards their own record company or going independent because people are. So this is what the fans want. This is what's going to sell money. Don't follow your feeling of it. Yeah, your vision. Follow what we want to sell.
Yeah.
And that's like not the point of metal, punk rock, alternative rock. Like that's maybe alternative rock. I don't know. Even rap to some degree. Like underground hip hop and rap. Like these people are doing what they want to do. They're doing it themselves.
Yeah.
And they're expressing themselves in their own way, which is beautiful.
For the art, not
for the art. And sometimes the art is bad, but it's their vision.
Yeah, and
I think a question that maybe you had prior to the interview is like metal was not my first love of music. Right?
Yeah.
I started with my father listening to Bob Dylan, who's inherently a terrible musician, a great poet, So I would never like analyze the lyrics. I'd listen to the lyrics and as a song or like as a point of emphasis. There's a point to the song. Like it's not just the lyrics.
It's not a stringing together of words in order to
exactly. Yeah, and some music is, don't get me wrong. Yeah, some even like metal, punk, folk is stream of consciousness. But so from there I kind of found my own thing. It's such a cop-out excuse, but like Tony Hawk's Pro Skater for like the N64.
No, that's like
it got me into punk rock.
No, that's totally legit. I think Mastodon was on a bunch of Tony Hawk Pro Skaters too.
I know if Mastodon for sure was on like a racing game my brother had. And
really?
Yeah, he played it years later. And I'm like, why is this Blood and Thunder? Like, what's going on? But anyway, so I found punk rock. Yeah, it might have been pop punk, and I found that all on its own right. It's making money, but it's still your own thing. But if you look back to the history of punk, like most of these guys didn't know how to string a guitar. They just strummed, hit the drums and yelled about their problems. It's like, or their problems are social problems, and that brings a whole new world to music where you can have. Bringing what's the word I'm looking for?
It's like a populist, like grassroots kind of.
Yeah, like not protest songs, but protest songs.
No, I mean it's hard not to call Rage Against the Machine isn't pure punk, but
for sure, but it's definitely in the punk genre.
Yeah, it's hard not to call that protest.
These are all the metal punk. It all blurs the lines of things.
So
you look at. Sex Pistols, God Save the Queen. Like it's I don't know the meaning behind the song. It's been years since I've listened to it. I'm not an Englishman in that time, so I don't really relate to it. But they had some meaning behind it, or Dead Kennedys talking about holiday in Cambodia, like the dictatorship there. I think I'm not so sure, but there's a political drive behind it. There's passion. These people aren't just trying to appeal to everybody. They're fighting what they want to fight.
And is that probably, would you say that passion and that purpose is kind of what draws you to, what, is that kind of the thing that draws you in the most in music and art?
It's hard to say, right?
Yeah.
I certainly appreciate passion.
Yeah.
I don't have to agree with what the person's passionate about, though, to feel the passion and to like absorb the...
To respond to it.
Yeah, exactly. So I love passionate music where I have sung for bands in the past. I never played an instrument beyond drums where I was terrible, you know. So, I relate most to vocalists in bands. Yeah. And when I hear like their passion in their voice, like I relate to that so well. It doesn't matter what they're singing about, you know. But like if they're passionate about what they're doing, it comes through, and like you can kind of absorb that energy and like put it towards something else.
Yeah, totally.
And I think, you know, I'm sure people can get that from a painting. I don't personally, you know, but you can get these feelings and like, you know, manifest them within yourself. And it sounds really, you know, but
it's art.
It's hard to talk about. It's hard to talk about.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's part of the reason that there is this weird narrative that it doesn't matter as much anymore, because it's hard to talk about, and it's hard to you can't really quantify
not at all
why it's
good.
Yeah, exactly. There's not statistics for.
There's no right answer.
Yeah.
So and like
exactly.
We can talk about literature as an art form too, and like you know, I write for my publications, right? Yeah. You know, so it's not beautiful words, but I have to convince somebody that my science is good. You know, that, the work I'm doing has led to some significant finding in the field. So even the art of persuasion is lost on some people. Like there are definitely people who write I've read several thousand of them, very dry papers that like don't actually convince me that you have done good science. Yeah. You know, it's like,
or that what they're doing is worth doing.
Why did you spend $2,000 on this? You know, why did you waste half of your year researching this? It's not worth anyone's time. You know? But anyway, so this art all around, you know. I think, like I said, music it can get you pumped up. You don't have to get pumped up. You can express a total emotion through it. And I think it's an outlet for a lot of these people who are musicians, I'm speaking of, and I guess art in general is an outlet for their emotions. You know, to share how they feel with the world.
I think that's something about music that I think is really unique, is that it doesn't, not to say that it doesn't require a ton of engagement, but if you're listening to it, you will respond to it. Like there is an unconscious effect that music has on you, because it's when you hear it, you can't get away from it. Like if you're reading something, you can just like not be focusing and just your eyes are just running over the page. If there's a piece of visual art, you can
zone out.
Just zone out.
I can zone out with music too, though. I guess that's it.
Well, even with like...
It's still subconsciously there, though.
That's what... I guess that's what I'm getting at.
My eyes can follow a piece of paper, right? And I won't pay attention to what I'm reading. But I just move my eyes. But I guess with music, like if it's in your ears, you know, you have to be listening to it.
Even if it's like on in the background while you're doing homework or working on a paper or something.
I think with the technology that we have now available to us, it's like, you know, why aren't you listening to music constantly? Or even to anything. Why aren't you watching movies constantly?
Why aren't you just
researching art?
Critically thinking constantly? Period.
Critically thinking.
Period. That's it.
Nobody does it anymore.
So even I guess something we haven't talked about is live music.
No, that's true.
And that's a performance art in its own right. You know, I can listen to a band and feel some emotion and like really jive with them, but if I see them live and they don't put themselves, they don't have a good stage presence, you know, like they're not there, it's just like they're playing the music, like the little robots at Chuck E. Cheese, you know. I don't listen to that band anymore.
I've had the same experience.
I'm like, you know what, I can't support you if like you're not in it 100%. You know? Which is kind of sad, because you feel like it's some things you can appreciate over time, but then like once you appreciate it and your world gets shattered like that, it's like, okay, you know,
It's-
you're not a good band. Like,
Yeah.
you can string together notes, but like the passion that I felt was a one-time deal. Like
It was-
on one recording. You
It
know?
only lived in the studio,
Yeah,
which is
yeah.
a weird
It
thing that shouldn't
exists,
exist for music. Yeah.
And not that anyone needs to know this, but one of my favorite artists is Anthony Green. He's been in a couple bands, Seosin, Circa Survive.
Okay. Yeah.
And I've seen, I guess, him as a whole like close to 15 times now.
Yeah.
And he's from Philadelphia, so you know, close to home.
Yeah, totally.
He plays a lot of shows locally, you know.
Yeah.
But I watched an interview with him recently. Like I listened to it actually. It was just a
Audio.
tape, the audio thing, where he like described him being on stage as like a religious experience for him. Like not only do people thrive off of his music, but he thrives off the crowd's energy as well.
Yeah.
Like it's like a give and take, and like
It's symbiotic. Yeah.
totally
there's-
absolutely symbiotic.
yeah.
That's the exact word. So every time I've seen him live, no matter what, I come out euphoric afterwards.
Yeah.
Like, it's like that was a great show. Like
Yeah.
this guy puts his heart and soul into it constantly. I think over the course of the last 2 years, he's put out 4 albums between 3 bands, and it's like,
Oh my gosh.
this guy devotes his fucking life
Yeah.
to music, and like I wish I had the passion. I guess I kind of do, but you know, I wish I could put that forth, some passion that the world could see
Yeah.
on my end. You know, like I dive into my work, but you know, most of my work I only see because it's either not publishable or it doesn't really work out. You know,
Yeah.
but like as a band, you can put out a shitty record, but as long as you stand by that shitty
Yeah. It'll be
good.
listened to.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's. I think that's totally I totally agree. Like, there's being that committed to anything is
That's beautiful.
something that
Yeah.
it's amazing and should always be supported, whether or at
Yeah.
least engaged with, whether you may agree with it or not.
Oh,
That's- Getting back to the critical thinking thing, it's
Yeah,
like
totally.
there's no excuse to not say listen to a great band because like they maybe use a curse word or like they're not your genre. Like
You know, so I don't listen to hip hop or rap, but there's
Yeah.
there's a couple artists who like really get it. You
Yeah.
know, like I'm just like, okay, yeah, like this is that. You know, or I don't really listen to pop at all, but there's a couple pop singers. I guess Lady Gaga's one who like it's just about art. I feel like,
Yeah.
oh, maybe she is more about money. I don't know, but
No, I have a lot of
it,
respect for Lady Gaga,
it,
too,
it
yeah.
appears as if she's more into the art than most of her peers, if you will. You know,
Yeah.
their contemporaries
Totally.
on the same level. You
Yeah.
know? And I appreciate it for what it is. You know, I don't listen to it, but if it's on, I'll nod my head, or you know, I'll give the new album a listen just because it exists.
Yeah.
I don't want it to go unheard.
yeah.
You know, or Tribe Called Quest's new album.
Yeah.
Totally not my jam, but I've always loved Tribe. You know, so like
Yeah.
like can really, you know, convey their passion, even if it's not. Maybe they put on a bad live show. I don't know. They've been defunct for how many years?
I don't know, yeah.
It doesn't really matter. You know,
Yeah.
I get the enjoyment out of it.
Yeah.
And if one day, I think their band's stalwart enough to.
They'll last.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The records will last at least. You know? Like Bob Dylan will last, although his poetry still lives on. You know, like the songs he's written for other people or people have adopted to make their own. Like still are good. You know.
I think you have a really good understanding of how important both STEM and humanities are, both because they're interwoven and because you can't separate them, and they're both like part of why society exists.
Am I biased towards STEM? Absolutely.
Well, yeah.
But
I'm also biased, but recognizing that bias is the important thing, and understanding that one isn't more or less valuable than the other.
They're not mutually exclusive at all.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, that seems to be, there is oh, sorry.
No, continue.
Oh, there.
Yeah, I'll get to my point in a second.
Okay, there is this narrative that I experienced a lot of humanities being kind of useless, and
that's the going theme.
yeah,
You know?
and it's frustrating, and that's kind of why I wanted to do this project is just to make people either consciously realize the art they interact with or just understand that art is like everywhere, and just kind of trying to not tear down STEM, but lift humanities back up in people's minds.
So I'm not going to say without music in my life, I wouldn't be where I am today.
Yeah.
I don't know how that really would be panned out, right?
Yeah.
But I definitely owe a lot to the people, artists in general, musicians who have pushed me along the path, listening to music and like giving me positive feelings for a day, and like, oh, that's a great album. Like, I'm gonna carry this happiness for the rest of my day and work harder as a consequence, not because of the album. Like I'd say I owe a fair amount to some of these people. I appreciate them existing. So without them in my life, I might just like I can only think of like a gray blob who sits here just mindlessly typing.
Yeah, I mean, like, so that totally segues right into
perfect.
Kind of where. Can you imagine, like, you described yourself as a gray blob without music, for example, but can you, like, on a large scale, see a society without music? Or without art in general?
Without art in general, I think why I envision things as gray and just, like, unformed is because there's, like we've said, art all around us. Like, my chair, to some degree, is art. Like, it's got color, it's got texture to it. Whereas without any of that, everything might just be. I'm thinking of like a melting wax.
Yeah.
I know it's a really weird picture.
No, I totally get the feeling that
And I feel like as humans we're inclined to deal with our emotions at times. And like art is an outlet for that. I don't know what would happen if people kept everything bottled inside forever.
Yeah, that's
scary thoughts.
So. A little bit, yeah. No, I totally agree.
So I don't know if that fully answers your question. I'm
no,
sure
that's
if I had more time to critically think about it, would be.
No, that's an interesting angle that I hadn't really thought about. Is art as an emotional outlet, and
the ramifications of it are. We don't know it because it doesn't exist.
Yeah, which is part of how I answer the question. It's like this world doesn't exist. Like that's not
totally.
Yeah,
it's totally unrecognizable. And I'm thinking this is a really weird thought. But like, I feel like serial killer is probably devoid of that emotional outlet. So what would be a society if just like, not serial killers, but a war ravaged society? Is that maybe a historian can tell me the answer to this? Is that why we've kind of come from this hunter-gatherer society to a more civilized, you can argue, more civilized society? Because we're expressing things through different media, and we're not just all about eating berries, reproducing, and finding the next kill.
Yeah. No, I mean that's kind of where I look at it more in the historical side of a world without, when asked the question about a world without art. Writing is one of the pillars of civilization, and it is inextricable from art.
And they find the musical instruments from ages ago.
Exactly.
People have had this intrinsic need to convey something beyond speech. Maybe we never, I guess, I don't know the history of humanity and our species, but maybe for a while we didn't have speech, or the linguistics wasn't a thing. Like, goof.
Yeah.
So now we have like a way to do it, but we're furthering that. We're expanding on the whole concept of communication and expressing emotion.
And like you said, it's something intrinsic. I see it as foundational to people and society, the society that people created.
That might be a very naive answer that we both gave, but it's our understanding without any kind of facts based on it. I'm sure, I guess what I'm getting is I'm backtracking. So 20 years from now, and someone uncovers this video, and it's like, well, he had a very interesting thought, but it's totally wrong.
Well, there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
Cool. I think.
I think we're good. I enjoyed this.
Awesome. Yeah.